Hey, yo, what's up, YouTube, man? It's your boy, Action Jackson. And in today's video, man, I'm going to be talking about why the Dallas Cowboys needs to get this next head coaching job and next coaching search correct. Because if they don't, we're never going to be what Washington is or be what these teams that haven't been to the NFC Championship game in a long time, and you turn around and now they're playing NFC Championship games, and you're going to be like, we're going to be in this constant loop of being mediocre, of not getting over the hump if we don't do it with the coaching. Because we know that our ownership is never going to move out the way, and we got to understand that we're going to have a head coach that is mentally strong and that can have a really great staff, an elite coaching staff with them that can have these guys ready to play game in and game out. I will talk about the intricacies and what I really want in all my head coaches moving forward. And also I want to congratulate the Washington Commanders on their way to the NFC Championship game. They played a hell of a football game versus the Detroit Lions. They went out there and they played hungry and they played like they wanted that game more than Detroit, and they did. And congrats to them. They were able to have new ownership, first of all, new ownership, got the old ownership out of there. And when they brought in new ownership, they were able to bring in guys like Bob Myers, former NBA winning GM, formerly part of the Golden State Warriors. And we know, if you don't know Golden State, the Warriors, you've seen their fans everywhere. You've seen number 30, Steph Curry like jerseys everywhere, Kevin Durant and Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Andre Iguodala, Kevon Looney, David Lee, Mo Spades, and all those great guys. And you have Magic Johnson. It's crazy that they brought over NBA and NFL guys over as GMs, and now look where they're at. They're playing the NFC Championship game. I'm not saying that's what it takes, but you got to congratulate them. And even me as a Dallas Cowboys fan, I can't stand Washington. But yet, I got to give them credit because again, this is another team that's going to a place that we've never been to in 30 years. So I'm going to talk about why the Dallas Cowboys need to get it right. Who should they hire? Who will they ultimately hire? And things of that nature. So before we hop into the video, I would appreciate if you guys like the video, subscribe if you're new, comment, and share my video with anyone who you think will enjoy my content. First, my requirements of what I want from my next head coach, whether that is Aaron Glenn. I understand Aaron Glenn led up 45 points in today's game, but not that long ago, where everyone from the month of September through December of 2024 was everyone singing the Detroit Lions praises. So I understand that they did lose in embarrassing fashion to our division rivals in the Washington Commanders, but I'm not going to tolerate the disrespect for those dudes just because they had one bad showing. Dan Quinn had a terrible outing as a former defensive coordinator. He allows 48 points against the Green Bay Packers, a young Green Bay Packers team. They look regular this year. And he gets a new head coaching job, has ownership that gets out the way, has him actually coach the team that he wants to. And the way in which he wants to coach the team in our own division, not even our division, just in the division alone. And now they're playing in the NFC Championship game, right? So same thing goes for Ben Johnson. Everyone's going to crap on Aaron Glenn, but give Ben Johnson this pass. Running trick plays, you running a trick play down 10 in the third quarter. Jameson Williams stole the ball. I know that's Ben Johnson's fault for calling it, and that's Jameson Williams' fault for throwing it. So they're both in the wrong, right? Both negatives do not equal a positive, right? Then, down the goal line, 3rd and 1, it's 7-3. They go third, it's 3rd and 1, and down the goal line, they try to spread it open 5 wide. Why? You have the best offensive line in football. Give it to Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery, get the 1 yard. But, it is what it is, right? So, number one, what I'm looking for in my next head coach is this. I need a leader of men. I need someone who's going to set a culture. And what I mean for me and how I am talking about setting a culture is I want to set a culture that understands that we have to work for any and everything to be great. I want this next group of coaches to understand that the only reason why you're being talked about the way you are is because of the great marketability of your owner. But not only that, you're being talked about because of what Jimmy Johnson and what those players did in the 90s. I need the next coach to understand and let the players know that the only reason why you guys are even talked about on TV every day is because of what those teams did in the 90s. If you want people to talk about you moving forward, whether in the 2030s, 2040s, 30 years from now, you have to set your own legacy, your damn self. And we can't keep leaning off of what Troy, Emmett, Jimmy, the house that they built, right? That's the only reason why the Dallas Cowboys are even talked about in terms of success. And when they're compared to success, who are they compared to? The last thing that people saw with the Dallas Cowboys was the 90s. That's the only reason why we have the expectations that we do. I need this next head coach to understand that we need to work for everything. That yeah, you're a Dallas Cowboy. Just because you're on TV every day, you get the best marketability that you can possible, doesn't mean crap because you haven't won anything. I need our coach to understand that yes, you guys are great players. We need to play like it every Sunday, but then we also need to understand that we haven't won anything and that we need to stay even killed throughout the duration of the season. No matter if we have a great win versus the Green Bay Packers, we know because we play the NFC North next year. So if we play Detroit, or not if, when we play Detroit, when we play Green Bay, when we play Chicago, when we play Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, and Minnesota next year, those are really good football teams. That if we beat one of those guys, it doesn't mean anything. We're going to play possibly a Super Bowl runner-up and an NFC Championship loser. Doesn't matter, but we're going to play one of them next year twice. Who knows? They might win a Super Bowl. One of these, if Philly goes to the championship game, they might win it, and we might be playing a Super Bowl winner twice next year. So and then also, if Kansas City makes it to the Super Bowl, you play Kansas City next year. You play the AFC West next year. So I need this coach to be a leader of men. I need him to set a culture. I need him to hold all his players accountable. I need him to understand that the only reason why we're the Cowboys and why the reason what it means to be a Dallas Cowboy, the only reason why we're even being talked about as highly as we are is because of what those players built. If you want to be revered like how those players are 30, 40 years ago, you need to set your own legacy, and it starts now in OTAs, training camp, mini camp, etc. Also, I need a coach that's going to have us ready to play in every single game, whether it is the divisional matchup, divisional round, whether it's the first round of the playoffs, whether it's wild card weekend, whether it is a big win in, the regular season versus whoever, if we get a big win versus Kansas City next year at home, I need us to stay even killed throughout the season. I can't have a time where the Dallas Cowboys start out 2-0 like how they did in 2023. You start out, smacking the Giants, smacking the Jets, and then week 3, you let up a stinker against the Arizona Cardinals because you underestimate them. I need a head coach that's going to understand that we are everyone's Super Bowl every single week, and we need to play with that same level of intensity every single game. And every single week, I need him to understand that to let these players know that when we do play guys that are equally as talented as us, if not better than us, I need him to understand and to let these guys know that we can play and that we belong in the same ballpark. I need him to understand all the tendencies. I need him to understand that the same vitriol, that same aggressiveness that you played against your division rivals, I need you to play like that versus these guys, right? So I need a head coach that's, again, keeps the team even killed, but is going to have us prepared every single game. Also, adding to that, for us to have the coaching advantage every single game. I talk about this with so many people. What would some players like Dak Prescott CeeDee Lamb would look like if he had a Ben Johnson as his play caller? If he had an Andy Reid or Eric Bieniemy as his play caller? Liam Cohen, offense coordinator in Tampa. Todd Monken, OC and Baltimore, Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator in Buffalo. What does our team look like when you're able to utilize everyone on the offensive side of the football and understand all your players' strengths and weaknesses and is able to use it as their advantage game in and game out? What does that look like, and what could this team possibly look like if we had a head coach, if we have an offensive-minded head coach? I want to know what can our team do with that. So if we have an offensive-minded head coach, whether that is Ben Johnson, whether that's Liam Cohen, whether that is Joe Brady, how are you able to utilize Dak Prescott, get the most out of him? How are you able to utilize CeeDee Lamb and his best capabilities? How are you going to be able to utilize Jake Ferguson and his best abilities? There's no way that he looks like the really good next Dallas Cowboys tight end in 2023. And then in 2024, I know he's dealt with concussion, inconsistent play at quarterback, and didn't have his starting quarterback for the majority of the season, and he was hurt himself. But there's so many factors. Stop having Jake Ferguson run curl routes, hitches, and things like that. Have him use his bigger body on the outside. Have him run seam routes, what he was doing, post corner routes. Have him in space where he's able to use his athleticism, things of that nature, right? Give us an OC or an offensive-minded head coach that can utilize everyone on our roster to their strengths. So if we bring in a leader, or if we're just bringing a guy, a defensive-minded head coach, what does his OC look like? What does his DC look like? What does his O-line coach look like? What is his OC doing? What is his line of work? What has he done? Etc. Things like that. I want to know whoever we bring in, whether it's a defensive-minded head coach, an OC, offensive-minded type of head coach, or just a head coach as a leader of men. What does your coaching staff look like? That's very, very, very important for me if the Dallas Cowboys want to have success. Defensively, whether we have a defensive-minded head coach, I would love to have a guy like Robert Saleh in here as our DC. Or if he's our head coach, out of all the people that I've been hearing out of Jason Witten, Kellen Moore, out of those names, just, either retread, former head coach, or Kellen Moore, Jason Witten, give me Robert Saleh as my head coach, right, versus the other guys. But I would love to have a guy like Robert Saleh in here as his defensive coordinator. I'll talk about him in a little bit. But I also need a defensive guy, whether that's a defensive-minded head coach or just a DC. I need to have the guys flying to the ball. I need eye discipline that has us ready to compete against these creative offensive coordinators in this game. McDaniels and not Josh McDaniels, but McDaniels out in Miami. Can you compete against that OC? Can you compete against him? LA Rams, can you compete against that? Can you compete against Kevin O'Connell and the Minnesota Vikings? Can you compete against the San Francisco 49ers if you have to see them in the playoffs? Can you compete against Matt LaFleur in Green Bay? Can you compete against Kansas City? Can you compete against Green Bay? Can you compete against your own division when they move on? If Kellen Moore says doesn't matter. Can you compete with Detroit? Can you compete with the Bills and what they have offensively in terms of their play calling structure? Can you keep up with those guys? Are your players ready for you? Have they been studying in the film room? Are they correctly prepared? Is it things that I want to know? Are we going to have tough physical guys on the defensive side of the football that is ready to run through a wall? But not only that, they're able to play for their best abilities. You're going to get the best out of every single 11 players on that football field. And even when we're subbing guys out, can we get the best out of our guys that are gap sound, that are not selfish type of players? Can we get a team, offense, defense, and special teams, that move as one? I know that there's 24 guys that play the sport on one team, but I need a team that can move as one. We have one sound. We understand what we are. We can go into games understanding this is what we're going to do. We're going to run it great, and you're going to have to stop us, not the other way around. And if we're going to have teams that can figure us out, can you have a head coach that can flip the script and have a coaching advantage, and him can make in-game and halftime adjustments? That is very, very, very key for this next coaching staff. And for me, the next set of head coaches that I would like the Dallas Cowboys to bring in as their head coach, in no particular order, it doesn't matter for me. Who I want as my head coach, I would love Ben Johnson. I would love a creative play caller as my OC. He's been able to do that multitude of years throughout the time and duration from where he was at Detroit. I know that they had a first-round exit and they looked embarrassing, but it doesn't matter. Still has really good offensive numbers. He has been able to revitalize Jared Goff's career. Can we bring that in? Can you bring in guys from that staff? Can you bring in a similar type of offensive line coach to help coach up these young guys that we have at the offensive line position, things of that nature, right? I would love an Aaron Glenn. And Aaron Glenn is a former player in this league. He played for the Dallas Cowboys back in the day in 2000 and, under the Bill Parcells era, so like '08, he played. I want to know, not also want to know, but I would love to have Aaron Glenn in as my head coach. I know he had a very terrible outing again, but I would love for Aaron Glenn to be in this head coaching job if the Dallas Cowboys allow him to actually have a shot at interviewing. Another head coach I would like the Dallas Cowboys to hire is Liam Cohen, offensive coordinator from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Had a really, really good offensive year with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is having another really good year as a Buccaneer, and they looked really great offensively. Before the injuries start to rattle off, they looked really great, and they were able to thump the Philadelphia Eagles early in the season, made them look regular. Was able to put up every single time they touched the ball, they put up points. They were able to have shootouts. They were able to put up a lot of points in these games. They whooped up on the LA Chargers in LA. So have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator and Liam Cohen. I will look for that as well. Joe Brady, offensive coordinator out in Buffalo. I know he has a superhero like quarterback, as they say, but he doesn't ever show up in the postseason when it matters. But Joe Brady, Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator in 2019 for the LSU team. I know he was the offensive coordinator in the pros earlier, in between time before Buffalo, and he looked kind of okay, regular with the Carolina Panthers. But I would love to know what Joe Brady can do with, again, second team All-Pro not that long ago in 2023 with Dak Prescott. What does he do with CeeDee Lamb? What does he do if we bring in a wide receiver 2, for example? Won't happen. But T. Higgins, what does an offensive coordinator look like, and what can he bring in? An offensive-minded coach, what can he do with the next guy coming in here and bringing in, what can he do with a full set of talent at the Dallas Cowboys? Jerry, Steven, Will McClay, and scouting staff, what can they do to build this roster to give their head coach a fighting chance, right? Deion Sanders is the last head coach that I really like for the Dallas Cowboys to sign. One, coach his player. He's going to be able to let his staff do what they want to do in terms of he's going to bring in the best stuff that he can possible. He's a great recruiter. He can sell. He's just like Jerry. He can sell water to a whale. So when you have those great guys and those great pitch salesmen into your locker room, in terms of if you can get a coach that Deion is regarded as one of the best corners in this game in general, and people have so much revere for him. People who are my age, born in 2000s, who've never seen Deion play, but they know how great Deion is, how everyone talks about Deion, and how great of a football mind and a player and a person that Deion is. Not saying he's a perfect person at all, but when it comes to football, he is one of those guys that people revere and people respect. And also, you got to think about it. He was a really good player. So he isn't one of these players that, he isn't like a Jason Garrett that was a backup, has one moment. But Deion is a walking highlight. Like, his entire life, he's just been a highlight, right? And if you can get a guy like Deion in here, who's been a Dallas Cowboy, 2, been really successful with the Dallas Cowboys and understand what it takes to win, and he brings in his guys, not Pat Shurmur, that offensive coordinator that's over in Colorado, but if you bring over a really good offensive coordinator in here, and you bring in a DC, possibly a guy like Robert Saleh, or if Deion comes back, might have the chance to retain Mike Zimmer. But if we can get Deion in here, I think he'll be the most ideally fit coach for the Dallas Cowboys. Was a hell of a player in the NFL, played for the Dallas Cowboys, understand what it means to be a Dallas Cowboy. He's seen the departure of this team and why this team wasn't great. So I think he will come in with insight to figure out to turn this team around. I think that he can turn this culture around. I think Deion can. If he comes in, he figures it out. But the Dallas Cowboys, if Deion doesn't want to, and there's no serious consideration for the Dallas Cowboys to bring in Deion, then Aaron Glenn, Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Joe Brady, Robert Saleh would be my last resort if we can't get anybody else. That's like the only retread I'll rehire is Robert Saleh, but I just need him to bring in an offensive genius, like one of those McVay, Shanahan tree type of guys. Bring him in as your OC, and we can talk, right? But the guys that I do not want at all, I don't want any more retreads. I don't want any more retreads. I don't want a Pete Carroll. I don't want a John Gruden. I don't want any of those guys. I don't want guys that have very little, who I don't see that can lead a group of men like in Kellen Moore. I just view him as another Jason Garrett. Jason Witten has no head coaching experience at all. I would like for Jason Garrett to go through the college ranks. If in the Dallas Cowboys, if you're in your sick, twisted mind saying, look, I want Jason Witten to be on my staff because I want him to be the next Dan Campbell, put him through the ringer like Dan Campbell in terms of go be part of some college staff. Be with the college staff. Understand the college game. Understand what the college players are doing, because what they're doing in college, some people are bringing it over to the pros and they're just adding pro-like members to that, and they're adding pro-like principles to their offense. Go over to the coaching staffs over there in college. Be in college for a little while. Maybe be a quality control player. Be a tight ends coach. Be something. Be an offensive line coach. Be a wide receiver coach. Be something, right? And then go over to the pros. Spend about 2 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years in college. Then go to the pros. Then be a quality control assistant. Then go be a tight end coach, or go be an offensive line coach. Go be a wide receiver coach. Go be a whatever coach, and be around the pros for a little while. Then come to the Dallas Cowboys. Then be part of the staff. Then be the head coach. That's how I want Jason Witten to figure out. But if Jason Witten comes in and he's a head coach, I'm just not for it, in my opinion. Or with Kellen Moore, or with any retread. I don't want another retread, because if you bring another retread, for me, you'll just be spitting in all your players' faces that play for the Dallas Cowboys, and you'll be spitting in your fan base's face by bringing another retread, because we could have just kept Mike McCarthy and just rolled with the punches like that. Because at least we know 8-12 wins. We'll have a shot to make the playoffs. I know that isn't good enough for some people here, but been in the playoffs 3 straight years. Back-to-back 12-win seasons haven't been done since 30 years. You have to take that into account. So, don't bring another retread. Don't bring in Kellen Moore. He'll just be another Jason Garrett. Don't bring in Jason Witten. He's inexperienced. He hasn't been coaching enough. In my opinion, he hasn't been coaching enough. I don't think he's ready to be a head coach yet. I think down the line he definitely will, but not right now. Guys I want: Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Joe Brady, Deion Sanders, or Robert Saleh. That's last case scenario. I know I didn't say any retread, but if I'm going one retread, it'll be Robert Saleh. But I would rather have him as my defensive coordinator than my head coach. So that's about it for the video. Hope you guys have a nice day. Stay safe, stay blessed. Bye.